So I'm going to switch to our last guest, I guess. I'll bring some prior guests back for the final week presentations. Trena Paulus was a student here in the IU School of Ed, in particular the Instructional Systems Technology program. Was really interested in computer media communication when she was here, CMC. And if you're interested in that, you should talk to Jessica Lester, her former advisee, or Dr. Susan Herring over in informatics / School of Library Information Science, who are the experts in that. I dabbled in the area in the 1990s, have a book on it, and I'm fascinated by it. Trena also studied applied linguistics at Ohio University. She was also faculty member at the University of Georgia, a full professor there at the University of Tennessee. She is now at Eastern Tennessee. And she was in Tasmania. She was in Poland recently. So she's been in a lot of places, but you notice in the US, she's kind of on the same longitude, kind of going down from Indiana into Ohio, down to Georgia and Tennessee and all that. But she's got 3 books that are important here. Doing Qualitative Research in a Digital World, number 1. Number 2, Digital Tools in a Qualitative World. And then Looking for Insight, Transformation, and Learning in Online Talk. She's an Atlas TI, I guess, expert, professional trainer. She's won awards for her work in distance education from ACT, and also a Dr. Neil Norrick Special Issue Award for the microanalysis of online data in the Journal of Pragmatics. Trena, you've done a lot. I'm just always amazed by what you've accomplished. And I watched the video the other day at the University of Chicago, and I recommend to my students to watch that video because you are so engaging, so knowledgeable, how you got all that into such a short space of an hour. I mean, you covered really a lot of topics and made them easy to understand. And that's what good professors do. Often we don't hear those kinds of people being able to explain things so darn well in complicated issues. It's such cutting edge issues. You may be jealous. I'm like, God, can I ever be as good as Trena is presenting? I'm looking at him, so do watch the video. That's the new one. There's one from 2016 I shared with you as well. Trena, did I miss anything in your bio that you want to pull out for us and tell us about?
No, that covers it. That makes me tired just listening to it. But, I do attribute my ability to explain concepts to the fact that I started out as a language teacher. I've always wanted to write an article about how all teaching is language teaching, and you really have to focus on explaining concepts, not just to second language learners. We're all second language learners, I guess, when we go into new domains, and especially with AI. That talk took me a really long time to prepare because it took me a long time to get my head around what are very complicated constructs, especially for someone who is not a computer scientist like me.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, when we have something new, we get petrified for a little bit at least, and like, whoa, you are learning a lot on the fly. We do have language people in the room. Alicia's a professor from Shanghai, who's my visiting scholar. And we have Lena's a professor from China, who's also from China and one of mine. And we have Omida, who was a student in IST till recent. She graduated. She's from Uzbekistan. We may have other language people here as well. You know Feng Ru probably.
Yes, very much so. It's great to see Feng Ru here.
Yes, so she's at Kent State as a professor now in the libraries there. So can you tell us a little bit about your most recent experience in Poland as a Fulbright scholar? What did you do there and what did you accomplish? Why did people, did you present on qualitative methods while there or
Yeah, this is a great story. It's really just a lot of serendipity. The faculty at Adam Mickiewicz University, which is in Poznan, Poland. So this is the western side of Poland, and this was before the war broke out in Ukraine when we started the process of me going to Poland. They asked me to do a webinar on qualitative data analysis software, just a 1-hour presentation. They were doing a whole series on qualitative research, so they wanted me to do a Zoom webinar on that, and I do that quite often for lots of places. And I had just coincidentally been looking at the openings for Fulbright Distinguished Scholar positions. So with Fulbright, there's so many different Fulbright programs, as you probably know. You have to really be invited to work with the university, generally speaking. And so I recognized the university name, and so I went to the Fulbright page and I saw that there was going to be an opening there in the social sciences. So it was the Distinguished Scholar in Social Sciences and Humanities, which is just one of the types of scholars that Fulbright sponsors. So I just started a conversation with the faculty who invited me to do that talk and said, I wasn't necessarily looking to go to Poland, but I had always been interested in Poland. And so I said, if you would like me to come, on site to do qualitative research training for faculty and students, it was a teaching Fulbright. I was there to do workshops and training. It wasn't a research Fulbright. I would be happy to do that because I've been wanting, after COVID, I was desperate to get out of the country, to be honest. Like I was just I used to travel quite a bit and I hadn't in a few years. So yeah, so they invited me and I went for the spring, basically 6 months, the first half of 2023. And of course, the war in Ukraine broke out, or the invasion of Ukraine occurred, I should say, literally like the week after I got accepted as a Fulbright Scholar. So at the time, none of us knew how long that was going to go on. Everyone was like, "Are you still going to go?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I also did the Peace Corps in South Africa when Nelson Mandela well, I should say in Lesotho in Southern Africa at the time that Mandela was up for election. So apparently I just go into countries when they're, very close to breaking out in war. I don't know. I guess I have a history of that now. But I worked with faculty doing training on Atlas TI data analysis software, and I taught a master's level course for students on social media analysis. So it was exactly like what I always do. I just, was doing it in Poland, and I absolutely loved it, highly recommend it. Not a lot of Americans go there or think about it. It's just fantastic. It was a fantastic experience. I'm going back this summer for a conference and also just for a week to travel a little bit. Yeah, so that was really great, and I'm grateful to the Fulbright Commission for giving me that opportunity. And I'm kind of looking for any chance that I have to go back to that region again, and really hope that the war, Ukraine can successfully resist, the occupation.
Yes, and all the other countries around it too. Bonk is a Polish name, Western Poland. It was in Germany for some time. And there's a lot of disagreement about the name Bonk. Some say it's B-A-K with a Slavic symbol under the A pronounced Bonk. Other people say it was Bonkowski. So we really don't,
Oh,
yeah, there's some, and there was a professor at Duke who taught Bonkistry, for 30, 40 years, and he was from Wisconsin like I am, and he said that at one point there's a gentleman named Bonkowski who married a woman from France named Bonk. Her name is Bonquet. They just shortened both names to Bonk. That's another story. Anyhow, look up the. So I'll tell a funny story here. I'm sorry. He had students who were gone for the weekend. He taught a class, maybe a statistics class, and the students went. No, it's chemistry. I'm sorry, it's chemistry class. So it's chemistry, Bonkistry. So the students went to Maryland for the weekend to party. And 4 students, and they didn't get back in time for the test, and they went to see him, and he said, we had a flat tire on the way back from Maryland, and he said, that's okay, come back tomorrow and I'll give you the exam. So the students come back and put them in 4 different rooms, and the first question was for 5 points, name this chemical derivation, and they all probably got it right. They all smiled to themselves. They turned over the next page and said, for 95 points, which tire?
that's a good one. Good one.
So anyway, next question to get in here is, you become an expert at something you were trained for, but you coming into the program, coming into applying to IST as a doctoral student, you didn't plan to be a qualitative digital tools expert. How did that transformation happen? What were the seeds? Because all my students want to be transformed as well when they graduate. So what laid the groundwork for your digital transformation, your professional transformation, personal transformation?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I often talk about how there is a field of instructional technology, but there is no field of research technology. So I see myself as sort of operating in this intersection of instructional like process design, which is what I was trained in instructional systems technology, but not so much educational process design now, but research process design. And so coming out of the IST program, and of course, when I was going through was literally when I was doing my PhD was literally maybe 10 years into when the internet became really big. So this was like online learning before COVID. Of course, it's hilarious that everybody now associates COVID with online learning when people like Professor Bonk and myself and others have been doing research in this area for many, many years. But anyway, I did do research on online learning, especially how people talk to each other in online, like discussion forums. And Susan Herring was on my committee. Um, I did my dissertation research with Joyce Alexander's educational psychology course when it was, I helped her put that online for the first time. So this was like,
Now she's dean at Alabama.
yeah, I knew she wasn't there anymore. I couldn't remember where she went. But yeah, this was early days. And I also do have like you mentioned, I have a degree in applied linguistics and I taught ESL in the Peace Corps and, then at Michigan State and at Ohio University, academic English. So I've always been interested in like language. And so I do a lot of discourse analysis. That's the methodology I use. And so I came out of the program with a process orientation, was teaching in an ed psych program, just kind of basic ed psych, some can't remember what I was teaching the first 2 years I was there because the pivotal point, this just shows you how one little thing can change the whole trajectory of your career. Handel Wright, Professor Handel Wright was at University of Tennessee teaching qualitative methods there, and he left and he went to Canada. And they said, we need somebody to teach qualitative research. And in ed psych, there were no qualitative researchers like at all. And I had just finished I would say a quasi-qualitative dissertation because I did do chi-square. It was more like content analysis. It was qual light, no critical orientation, no real discourse orientation per se. So I started teaching qualitative research and I absolutely loved it. And at the time, this would have been early mid 2000s, in vivo, Atlas TI, Max QDA were around, but like I never got any exposure to those in my doctoral work at all. Like no one was really talking about that stuff yet. But my students knew about it. And of course, this is how we often learn most of the things is our students come to us and say, hey, know about this tool called in vivo. And I'm like, yeah, I don't, but I guess I should learn or you learn and tell me about it. So I got really interested, probably because of my background in, IST. Oh, there are all these research technologies out here that nobody is systematically talking about, using, writing about from a methodological perspective, providing any support in, or just any conceptual framework to understand. And so that led to our 2014 book, which is called Digital Tools for Qualitative Research. And that was our first mapping of research technologies across the whole qualitative research process. And I've had a lot of people say that it's not really just qualitative research, it's research technologies, period, because literature review technologies, data collection technologies, they should all be included in that. It's just because my co-authors and I are really qualitatively focused that we looked at that. And then I just kind of went from there. Like that then became my little niche of a very small area that not a lot of people have been working in. And that's, I guess, kind of one of the main kind of research trajectories that I've had since then.
I have a lot of questions. Another comment, I have run kind of a mentee that did a similar route. And we have a student here, a visiting scholar from Seoul National. And one of my mentees just went to Seoul National as their qualitative methods person. And she was at Lancaster in the UK, and her name is Kyungmi Lee. And she did books on autoethnography and ethnography, along with instructional technology. And she got picked up by Seoul National, the top university in Korea, to teach the ethnography courses, the qualitative methods courses, even though she's an IST person. And there are many IST people who end up teaching research methods. They might get a master's in it or a minor in methods, research methods. Right now, we have a mixed methods master's degree. I'd highly recommend
Oh,
yeah. So yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, Leslie Redkowski and and her husband put that together recently. So I think that's very cool. I was going to ask about qualitative tools. That was going to be my third. I have one question before that. Well, let me ask this one here. Just sprung my. Do you? You've got 3 books, but do you have 1, 2, or 3 really practical short pieces that you've written about qualitative tools that my students and people who are listening in here might download or take a look at? Or Christian could get the URL for and give us, is there a place where we can go to just read an overview kind of thing of the digital tools for qualitative research?
I don't not in so it's interesting. I try to stay away from getting too deep in the tools themselves because they change so much,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So, yes, put well, it's hard. Like it depends on, I mean, that is why we wrote the book because we don't really have anything super short that goes
Sure.
along with that.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking at it often from a reflexivity stance in terms of our most recent paper is really about digital workflows. And when you are trying to create your digital research workflow, to think through the consequences of that. So I'm always looking, again, like more at a process framework, not so much at the specific tools per se, especially this is a, I think most people's way into this is data analysis software, and that is fine. But I will say that's just one of the many tools. But I will give you a little link in the chat here. The Cactus Networking Project is the best place to go for understanding the landscape of data analysis software. In Vivo, MaxQDA, Quirkos, Deduce, there's some new ones out there, WebQDA. The thing is, we're at a very interesting pressure point because AI, generative AI, is going to change the entire landscape of all of this. And I am so not generally a technology alarmist, not generally, usually I'm like, yeah, whatever. And like smartphones, they changed a lot. Social media did change a lot, but what's happening with generative AI is, I think, like significantly different in a lot of ways. And so I think some of this, like this whole thing is going to be turned upside down pretty soon. So yeah, I would go to the Cactus Networking Project in terms of data analysis software. And then the mobile device apps change so much that it's hard to, I can't give up. And since I do a lot of social media analysis, I'm not doing a lot of data collection per se, other than trying to figure out how the best ways, the most ethical, robust ways are to extract social media data, which is always a challenge as platforms change. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but those are
That's
some
great.
initial thoughts. Yeah.
Everyone's typing here and going in, and Feng Ru has added a link in here. Feng Ru, do you want to unmute your mic and chat and say hi?
Okay, I just say hi. Hi.
Hi. I recognize your voice, even though it's been years.
It's so nice to see you. Okay.
Likewise.
Yeah, thank you, Feng Ru. And jump in at any point, Feng Ru, definitely do. Jessica, can I have you hold up your 3 books to get people excited about them and buy them? And so tell us about each one of the books and what's in it, why they should get each of the different ones.
Well, I don't have, I don't even know if I have copies here. I guess I'm not very prepared for this. Um, I would, well, the 2014 one is probably not one that anybody wants to get anymore because it was sort of a first edition and then we reframed it and resold it to Sage as the Doing Qualitative Research in a Digital World. That one came out, so it was funny. We had been trying to work on a second edition of that. The publishing industry is a mess, just so you know. It's very, I'm really trying to think about whether I'm even going to bother writing another book or try to just do something different that's more open and accessible to people, right? And I know you've done that for years, Kurt. Like you were really an early adopter with trying to think differently about how to make materials available. But when COVID hit, Sage got in touch right away and said, how soon can you get a new edition of this book out? Because now all of a sudden everybody cares about virtual and digital methods because nobody can be in person anymore. And how do we keep our research going using digital tools and spaces? So that book came out, I think 2022 is the publication date. I think it really came out at the end of 21. But anyway, we got that one finished during COVID. And that one really does introduce this idea of digital workflow and how the tools are. Oh, and by the way, I do teach this course for IU as an adjunct. I keep forgetting to mention that. So I've been teaching that. I'm teaching it this summer again, maybe the fourth time,
What's
third
the
time.
number? Course number?
I want to say it's Y616, and I'm terrible with that because I don't do too much on the back end. Y616 this summer, and I'm also so the other book with Alyssa Wise, who was also an IU alum from Learning Sciences. She's at
She was a guest
Vanderbilt
last
now.
year in my class.
Yes, yeah. So she and I wrote the book in 2019, which our big mistake was not using the word social media in the title. Looking for insight, transformation, and learning in online talk is very vague, and nobody knows what online talk is, and we should have just called it social media analysis. But it takes a qualitative and quantitative approach to looking at social media data. And I'm going to be teaching that book for IU for the first time this summer, and I think it's Y650 as a special topics online course.
Probably 650, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
So
Dr. Lester.
In the inquiry, so it's Y.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you have 2 courses for IU this summer.
Yes, this
So
summer.
all my students who want to take, will you do this in the future? Other summer, you think, if this goes well?
That's a great question to ask, Jessica, because I know they're rethinking some of their curricular structures, online versus face-to-face, graduate certificate versus the doctoral program. So I know they're making a lot of decisions. I mean, obviously the fact that, I love being able to do that because I don't, here at ETSU, I don't work with doctoral students anymore, so I don't get to teach this stuff anymore. I've been doing more the administrative side of things. So, but the fact that they, have needed me to step in and do it tells you something about like resource allocation. So I don't know. I'm happy to teach. I've been teaching in the fall and the spring, but I can't do that anymore because it's running up against my real job too much. But in the summers, I might be able to keep offering that. But I am doing both of those courses this summer.
Wonderful. That's good news for everybody. Katie's sitting here writing it down. I saw her writing that down. She was asking what's going on this summer. I'm sure other ones will be doing it as well. And then, Katie's already slipped me a little note. Do you think IU would hire Trena and we could have her just come right here? And yeah,
There was a time in my life that I would have jumped at that. Because whenever you graduate from your PhD program, everyone's best dream is to go back to where they did their doctoral work. Everybody wants to do that. And of course, the reason I've stayed down in the South Song is because I married somebody who's from East Tennessee, and he's never going to leave. So that's how. I don't think I ever would have been down here in the South for 20 years now, if that hadn't happened.
Yeah, I understand. Thanks for, but we do appreciate you. That is wonderful that you teach 2 courses. And maybe if you can confirm this, or maybe after this in a week or so, if you could send me your syllabus for one or just the title of the second, and I'll share it with my students and
I'll do that.
Everyone here. That'd be really good. You teach it with Zoom then? Do you have optional synchronous kinds of things, or do you have?
Well, that's a great question. So, this semester I'm doing discursive psychology for Jessica, and that is Zoom every week, a 3-hour Zoom session. But in the summer, since I'm going to be in Europe quite a bit of the time, what it will be is weekly modules. But I do a lot of video. I do a lot of responding in the forums, and it's very hands-on practical. Like you'll be working through research studies in both classes, like actually doing, the data collection analysis. And then I try to build in the synchronous component is that I will do a live video every week to launch the next module. And students have said that makes it feel a little bit more personalized because I am responding to what's happened in the previous week and trying to give them that synchronous feel. But with summer schedules, I'm sure I'm not the only one it's going to be really hard to find it. And just with the time differences, because it's interesting, the classes that I teach online for IU, students are all over the world. Still, I guess I shouldn't be surprised like that. It's always been a very robust international school of ed ever since I was there. But I've just been really impressed with everybody's coming in from all over the place, which makes Zoom a little harder, especially in the summer.
Will it be before end of July or in June?
It will be June and July, 8 weeks. Yeah, beginning of June to the end of July, roughly. Yep.
I might have some visiting scholars might want to audit it. They can contact you, and you can talk to them later. They're here until the end of some to the end of June, some to the end of July. Anyway.
Yeah.
So let's see if we have any student questions about qualitative research or methodologies or anything about Trena's career or about her books. you know, anyone's can jump in here. I've got other things, but go ahead. And go ahead, Katie.
I've always got a question, Dr. Bunk. Thank you for being here, Trina. I have had qualitative with Dr. Lester and really enjoyed that course, and I'm, you know, getting ready to start a qualitative dissertation. I'm just really interested in if you have a pitfall or something that you see researchers, you know, getting tripped up on repeatedly that you can caution us on how to avoid right off the bat.
Yes. Navel gazing. I think it's really easy. The longer I do this, the more fascinating I find it that we all seem to gravitate to study things that are really about ourselves. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And Kurt mentioned autoethnography, where you actually position yourself and your own reflexivity and positionality as part of the inquiry method. But I always tell students, yes, you need to be intrinsically interested in it, but so does somebody else. Like, it doesn't matter if you're interested in it if it's not a conversation in your field. And that's where I think a lot of students struggle is really leaning on their faculty mentors or more senior graduate students, or just reading the journals and figuring out, like, is this a conversation and where is the there? And has my question actually already been answered? I cannot tell you how many times I look at proposals and I'm like, we already know the answer to this question, but because it's new to the student, and they're so passionate, one of my pet peeve words, about it, they don't like take the time. And this is where I think you can get conflicts with faculty, because it's this, that's part of the learning. I think you guys do a really great job at the comprehensive. Like, I had a great experience with the qualifying exams. I can't remember who calls them what, comps, quals. I've been at too many institutions now. I can't remember who calls it what, but that was really where I had to sit down and reckon with what do we know and what do we really not know? And don't be bummed if what you were really interested in, we already know the answer to, and the real question is actually somewhere else. So I would say just framing it and coming up with an actual meaningful question is where I think people really struggle. And if you don't get that sorted out from the very beginning, it's going to be kind of an ongoing issue all the way through the dissertation defense.
Before we go to the second student issue, the theme of today was what happens when you have zero motivation? How do you get writing your dissertation or writing anything or working on anything? So what are your techniques, Trina, for low motivation days that inspire you or get you to be a success that you've been a success? And so what are your guidelines?
So my best response to that is something that I heard from well, I don't want to say real writers. So I'm a writer. We're all academic writers, but I'm talking more like fiction writers or songwriters or people, all creative types. And I can't remember who said it first. Maybe Elizabeth Gilbert, maybe Jason Isbell. But there's this concept called writer's block, which they say does not exist. There is no such thing as lack of motivation or writer's block. You sit in the chair every day and do the work, whether you feel like it or not. That's our job, right? We sit here and do it. Yeah. So the idea that we have to be motivated or that we're trying to work through writer's block, it's not a thing. It's just, you know, and I realize I'm old, I'm Gen X old, and some of my opinions are no longer popular or like okay with you know, the way the world is right now, but that's kind of been I have always decided, I mean, I decided long ago to treat the job as a job. So even before I was tenured, I would work, you know, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, pretty consistently, and not like blow off an afternoon and say, oh, I'm going to catch up on it and work until midnight or work all weekend, but really trying to set boundaries around this is the time. And those of you who are parents know that you have to do this, especially once you become a parent. Like, you have 6 hours, you better make those hours count. Doesn't matter if you're motivated or not, you got to do something. So that's maybe my, what do you call it? A unpopular opinion.
Gen X is not that old, okay? Okay.
Yes, we are. I know we are. It's okay. I don't mind.
I think Jill wants to jump in with a question for you, because we talked about some of the issues that you've raised. So Jill, you want to?
My question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Because
yes,
I'm not.
I can.
Yeah, so I appreciate your idea because which is very useful and straightforward. And I'm very interested because currently I'm the Fulbright scholar.
There you are. Hi.
I'm a Fulbright doctoral scholar, visiting scholar in the at IU, and I was hearing that you are the Fulbright distinguished scholar. Am
Yes,
I?
apparently I'm distinguished.
So it's kind of postdoctorate level,
Yeah, it's
right?
what they call mid-career. Yep.
So with this grant, you can teach in the university abroad.
So they have when you do a distinguished scholar thing, it can
Yeah.
be research only, teaching only, or a combination of
Okay.
research and teaching. It's whatever you propose alongside the university where you're working. And I could have gone for a full year, but it would have been at half
Whole
pay.
year. So it's
Well,
not a
yeah,
1 year grant, it's multiple year
no,
grant.
1 year. You could do
Okay.
1 year, but I only did 6 months because I would have had to take a half pay salary. Like I could only get 1 semester off at full pay from my university. So, but yeah, it's usually a 1 year appointment,
Okay,
but
got
I
it.
just did 6 months. Yeah. So people go for different amounts of time.
Sounds very fascinating.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
new motive for me.
She recently defended her dissertation and she's from Taiwan and came here right after defending.
Yeah.
So,
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking for the detail of the program.
Yeah.
so Amita's another one who recently graduated. Amita, did you have a comment or a question?
Hi, everyone. And I took a class with Dr. Paulus last summer, I think, before
I thought it was you, Amita.
before you went to Poland.
Yes, you did. And I didn't recognize your last name here on Zoom for some reason. And I thought, is it the same Amita? I'm not sure. But yes, it's good to see you actually in person, quote unquote.
Yeah, I shortened my last name. Still not short, but shorter than before.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah, so my question was already kind of answered. I was gonna ask about like how do you stay productive, and you answered that. And if we want to do, maybe you could talk about journals that publish about research technology. That would be interesting.
Yes, International Journal. Let me see if we can type them in here. So there's a social science. Oh, social science.
Great question, Amita, and I'm glad you asked it. And then also not just type those in, but which are your favorites or which tend to be more responsive, so they're not waiting 5 years to get published.
Yeah, so these two, International Journal of Social Research Methodology and Social Science Computer Review, I've had really good luck with those. I'll tell you, the holy grail of journals that I have not yet been able to get anything in is the journal Qualitative Research out of the UK. So if you want to challenge yourself, and they have little research notes, and so I think the next piece I'm working on, my co-author and I are going to try to get it in the shorter research notes part of QR, and maybe we'll have better luck. But they're very rigorous. Like I can't get anything past desk reject with them. So I don't know why. They just don't like what I do, I guess. But and then who else? Right now, so this is really interesting. The International Journal of Qualitative Research, I believe, or maybe International Journal of Qualitative Research Methods. It is completely open source now, open access now. Here's what I'm noticing about this. So we love open access, right? In theory, because it's peer reviewed, should be a rigorous process, everything should be available to everyone. But of course, the publishers, because as I said, the publishing industry is a disaster, it is charging exorbitant author submission fees to get it to be open access. So if you don't have thousands of dollars up front to pay for your article to be open access, you can't publish in IJQRM. They're only doing open access. So what I'm noticing, but they are doing a lot of the AI pieces right now on qualitative research with AI. They're all coming through this last journal that I put in the chat. But what's interesting is that I'm finding that a lot of the articles are kind of bizarre. And I think it's because they are reducing like they're getting fewer submissions because they're only accepting open access. And not a lot of qualitative researchers have the grant funding or the institutional funding to pay those open access charges up front. So it's becoming this weird, I don't know how it's all going to shake out, but I do see a lot of good articles there on research technology, qualitative research technology. Oh, and another one, the qualitative report is always, but they're also charging $500 submission fee now. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But that's one. I'm trying to think of where else I tend to, but I would say those first two kind of really focus on the research technology and not just qualitative, qual and quant. I'm
I
looking.
did the qualitative report for one, and we studied jobs and Twitter job postings and did an analysis of them in the field. It was a good journal. It's a good journal.
Yeah, it's open access. I mean, I
Yes.
do like open access stuff. You get more citations, so it really helps your impact factor because people can see your articles more easily. But yeah, they charge $500 now, which I think is really interesting decision.
Oh.
500, maybe we can afford those.
Yeah, 500 is about the upper limit I would pay, like,
Yeah,
to
to
do
make it
that.
open access, right? So Fungru and Renee both have questions. Renee's my student who's dissertating from language ed. But Fungru had a question about the journals, I think themselves. Fungru? Your question, Fungru?
Yeah, that's a just very general question about we know AI is coming, and then there are a lot of questions or even the debates on how much involvement a scholar should use with AI tools. So I just want to know what's your quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, so AI and I'm looking in the chat, your AI enabled tools for data analysis or even writing. So for data analysis, well, so it's changing so fast. So one piece of advice I heard today on a podcast about how there was a podcast episode that came out this week on how we should be using AI right now. They said that, there's so many wraparound tools that are coming out like every day, hundreds of new, gadgets, apps that are wrapped around like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. And their advice was to stick with the tools themselves. Like, don't go into like these bespoke kind of apps quite yet. Stick with the tool itself. And here's the problem is the ethics and the consent. Like you should not, this is just my perspective, you should not be putting protected data that if your participants have not given you consent to put their data into OpenAI, you should not be doing it because you're putting it out in the world to be used by large language models and we don't really even know what's happening. That's my thinking. Not everybody agrees with me. And so this is a real issue of ethical debate right now. MaxQDA, Atlas TI, and NVivo all have AI assist tools now that are drawing on OpenAI and other LLMs. So if I have permission to use Atlas TI and I put my interview data in there and I use the AI tool, is that okay if I haven't asked people for their consent or not? This is the thing. So I am kind of sticking with the qualitative data analysis software platforms because they were designed for qualitative researchers and playing around with their AI assist tools that are integrated. Also looking into tools like AI Lies, which I'm putting in the chat, AI Lies, and Caludra is a new one that's coming out soon. They're being developed by qualitative researchers for qualitative research, drawing on AI, and they're probably going to do it maybe in a more well thought out manner than I'm going to be able to figure out just asking ChatGPT a bunch of weird questions. But it's coming. I mean, the prompting around it, we're all kind of playing around with that. But the issue is it's all going out into OpenAI and it's human subjects protected data. If it's not human subjects protected data, go for it. And then Fengru, we're working on a paper right now about AI-assisted AI tools for the writing workflow. So I can keep you posted on that. My co-author has written it up and that's the one we're trying to get into QR. I am never the first in line at the Apple Store. I am a pretty late adopter on these things. So I've been doing a lot of reading a lot of listening to podcasts, a lot of trying to wrap my head around it. I have not been in there like playing around with it as much because I'm sitting at my desk writing from 9 to 5 every day. No, I'm just kidding. So we do need time for creativity and play when we're trying to learn the new tools, but I have not had as much time to just play around with it yet.
That's this summer, maybe.
Yes, as part of the courses that I'm teaching.
Yeah, besides the idea of hiring you to come to IU, the second idea I have for you is, editing a special issue or editing a book on these digital tool, AI tools, and getting people who have explored each of these different ones. I'm finding that special issues, I don't know if you're finding this, but special issues are just a dime a dozen these days. And they're a way to get your ideas out quicker and often in a prestigious way. Yesterday, we had the third of our 4 AI papers accepted for IEEE transactions and learning technologies. And also yesterday, Tech Trends just about accepted our 4th paper. We're studying YouTubers who teach languages online. So
Nice.
really cool stuff, cool people.
Yeah, that's great.
I study non-traditional learning and things,
Yep.
Open access learning, and that's what I'm interested in.
Yes.
Not the whatever else in the buildings studying the K-12 kids. We got big AI grants right now, millions and millions for studying kindergartners learning about AI.
Wow.
More interested in how someone's learning Duolingo, so I've got a couple in Duolingo.
I like Babbel better for learning Polish. I thought Duolingo, I did not like it's funny, the language learning methods behind these apps are fascinating. And so I used Rosetta Stone, Duolingo, and Babbel when I was learning Polish. I mean, not that I learned it very well. It's a very complicated language, but I've liked Babbel a lot better than Duolingo. And it just seems like Duolingo, for whatever reason, has really captured everybody's imagination. That's the only one that you hear about. But yeah, it's really, this stuff is so interesting because, that was my first career 25 years ago, is teaching languages. And it's fascinating where we are with all of that now.
Yeah, I wrote the World is Open book. I interviewed the Babbel people, so they're still around. There are a few of them. Rosetta Stone is behind the time. They didn't go web-based in time, but Live Mocha, was around then. I had one student do a dissertation on that. There were many, many language tools back in the 2008, 2009, 10. And only a couple that still exist, like Babbel, and that's from Germany. I should probably, maybe English Central might still exist, and BBC Learning English and all that. Renee has a question for us, and Renee's I'm blanking now, she's out east in Boston, and she has a private university in Boston. Remind us of the name of the university.
Brandeis.
Brandeis, right?
Oh, Brandeis.
We're all saying Harvard here, Good to see you, Renee.
Good to see you all. And hello, Dr. Paulus. I am happy to be able to put a face to because I cited your work in Journal of Second Language Writing, like the teacher and peer feedback. I cited that one in my dissertation, and your finding in that piece just kept coming back to me when I think about feedback in different contexts. And so I wonder, like with AI as the partner or AI feedback, how do you see like feedback seeking and feedback integration with digital tools? Just any general thoughts, or if you have later work that's kind of combine these two areas of your expertise, we'd really love to know that.
That article in the Journal of Second Language Writing was published in 1999 based on my master's thesis, and it by far has the most citations. And Charlene Polio helped me get that published when I was at Michigan State University, because she's a big expert in second language writing. And it just astounds me how these early pieces that you do, kind of like David Wiley with learning objects, like he will forever be affiliated with learning objects, even though he doesn't even do work on that anymore. And he's got so much around it. But anyway, so the first thing, I don't really do, I mean, I guess there's probably some threads around that in what I do, but I don't think about that too much specifically. But here's the funny thing about the podcast that I listened to about AI today that blew my mind is that what you're supposed to do is develop whatever AI tool you choose to work with, you give it a persona. You ask it to become a certain type of person or entity. So you could use the AI itself as the thing that's giving you feedback on you're learning as a language learner, and you would give it like, and I'm not talking just you are an ESL instructor or whatever we were supposed to call it now, you are an English as a second language instructor, like you ask it to give it feedback as if, you are a cowboy in, Texas, and you're like really supposed to like give them personas in ways that are going to help really make the feedback resonate for you. So what I'm wrapping my head around is that we're talking about AI as persona, not just tool. We want to talk about it as a tool, but they're positioning the developers and the people who are talking about this outside of academia are really seeing it as an actual colleague, collaborator, partner, anthropomorphized person that soon you won't have to prompt or give it that persona. It will develop it because it will have access to everything that you've ever produced on your computer, in your email, in the world, and then it will interact with you in the way that you find most useful. So I think that language learners will be able to use these partners to help them be stronger at what they do and develop their language skills in ways that are going to like be so far beyond our comprehension that we can't even talk about it today. And this is coming from someone who doesn't really think about technology like I said, in an extremist, alarmist way, but this is really something. It's really something, the way they're being developed and positioned. And keep in mind that no one actually knows how large language models work. Even the developers, no one knows how they come up with what they come up with. Like, that's the part that I'm like, what are you talking about that you don't know what's happening in the algorithms? They don't know what's happening in the algorithms. No one knows. They're just doing their thing.
Renee?
I'll have to try that out. It sounds fun. And I have heard that approach. I haven't tried that personally, but assign that AI a role to interact with them. Yeah, that would be a fun thing to do. I'll try that out. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. Let me know how it goes.
Let me know too, and when we have some couple last chapters of the dissertation, we'll talk soon. You mentioned David Wiley. I mentioned him Monday in class. And
he's everywhere.
We published together, and I mentioned in my Monday night class in emerging technologies that exactly what you said. Your paper in 1999, in the fall of 1999, I don't know if you're a new student then. You started in 97, 96.
No, I started in 99. Yeah, I came in the fall of 99. Yep.
So along with we had Anna Paula and Mimi and others came in 99.
Yep.
So in 99, I had Roberto Joseph and Michael Thomas in the room, and Brian Beatty and Steve Schatz and Yadi, and I know this class is 8 o'clock in the morning, and Steve Schatz, God rest his soul, he died a year ago. Almost tomorrow will be he died of liver cancer on April 6th last year. I don't know if you remember Steve Schatz or not.
I do, but I did not know that he had passed away.
Yeah, so he moved back to Bloomington to write children's novels and science fiction for adults and all sorts of. He's a cool guy, but teacher accreditation burned him out in the East Coast at Hartford University. Anyways, he said in the class, everyone's looking at the syllabus, and Jiang Li was in the class and others. I remember the whole class, and he stands up. He goes, he just moved from San Francisco, right? And he says, "What's your syllabus? Your website's junk." He said, "The syllabus, you don't have anything on learning objects from David Wiley." I spent the whole summer designing this syllabus, and I didn't have learning objects. So I had to redesign the syllabus. I remember this distinctly, and we became best of friends. I remember the first day he walks in there, kind of like Vanessa Denon to me, your website, what the hell, this is junky website, or whatever. Some people are really critical the first couple of days, but then, they mean well, and become best of friends after time. But anyways, David Wiley's been very influential in the field, and if people have not read David Wiley and what he's done and learning objects and OpenCourseWare and MOOCs, Open Ed Conference he's run, and he was ACT president last year. He's just phenomenal. So do read his work. He influenced me in writing The World is Open book. He was one of my muses. He's a brilliant guy, Other questions? Normally Lena jumps in with a question, I know that. But let's see if anyone else jumps in before Lena. And Alicia often asks the question. She's another English person. So, Alicia.
Hi, very nice to see you, Dr. Paulus. And I think this talk is very wonderful. And Actually, my questions have already answered by you and some other scholars. They have already asked these questions, and I actually also curious about what do you think of that AI and digital technologies can transfer researchers' engagement with their data, especially regarding semantic analysis processes. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that there will be no need for any of us to do thematic analysis soon. I think that that's something that the AI is going to do really well. And the real shift that people are talking about right now is away from coding and to querying. So instead of us coding and organizing the data, we ask questions. We put the data in the system and just ask questions. So it almost starts from a top down instead of a bottom up approach. And so some people are already writing and talking about query-based analysis instead of code-based analysis. And that's a huge shift for qualitative researchers because we've talked about coding and organizing and thematic analysis for so long. And I feel like that's going to be out the door most quickly. Now, language-based approaches like narrative analysis, conversation analysis, discourse analysis, so far it cannot do those things. Now, I think it will be able to. Also, direct analysis of image video data. So social media, one of the things I really need to shift my own perspective on is social media as a source of data. It's all image-based now. Like we're all have done so much on text-based analysis, but TikTok, Instagram, everything has reels and movies. So that is really the tools that we need. And if AI could help with some of that, that would be awesome. But right now it's still very text-based and very what is there, not how are things functioning or how are things being put together. But I think it's just a matter of time before it figures out how to help us with those sorts of making sense of the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone want to jump in? Oh, Tristan has his Boy Scout hand up.
It's the like peace thing kind of, but not peace. Anyway, kind of tying into what you guys were just talking about, I had the realization when I was doing an interview, was it last semester? Yeah, that during the interview I would use Zoom, and I used Zoom's whatever the Zoom built-in AI is for transcription and summarization. And I wasn't sure if I was going to use the information that came from that AI. I guess it's generative AI. I'm not sure exactly what type of AI it is, but I was trying to figure out how I was going to incorporate it into the writing about that experience. And it was kind of like a mini qualitative analysis type or mini qualitative research. And it dawned on me that it was acting as another interviewer, essentially, because it was summarizing what had happened, but it wasn't just summarizing the interviewee information from the interview. It was summarizing my interactions with the interviewee.
Yep.
And so it was like this third party perspective. And it has the potential to be this sort of non-biased kind of thing, but of course it's based on biased information, the data that it was formed off of. But what is your perspective on use of AI tools to provide this third-party outside perspective about even the interviews, the interviewing process?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, automated transcription, I mean, Otter AI is what used to be behind Zoom. I'm assuming it kind of still is. So, those automatically generated transcripts are really great and save a ton of time. I haven't used or seen the auto summarizing feature behind Zoom, which is part of that AI. But that, like you said, that adds like a whole other layer of interpretation, because some old school qualitative researchers will say you have to type up your own interview data in order to really understand it, because it's the first pass of understanding what's going on. I would say editing the automatically generated transcript serves that same purpose. You can listen to the interview again while you read the transcript, make the corrections, because Otter AI is not going to be not going to be perfect. But then what you do with those AI generated summaries, who knows? I don't think anybody's written. That's a great little methodological piece that you could add as part of, like, if you wanted to write up your digital research workflow, and add like, oh, here's how this helped me. And I have heard people position the AI as a validation tool, as a trustworthiness sort of auditor, because, you know, you're doing it. And then this other, you know, you can ask the AI to come in on the front or the end to kind of, and then compare what you're seeing with what it's seeing, because the way it's automatically summarizing what you're doing and what the interviewee is doing, you may or may not have that same perspective on it. And the qualitative researchers, you are the instrument, like it's, you have the better understanding more than the AI does. So how might you agree or disagree with that? And it may have raised a new angle on it, which is great. You can like include that as part of the interpretive process. But I haven't seen anybody yet writing about that. So that's a good opportunity to think about that.
A new dissertation, baby. Great.
Yeah, one more paper to write out of your dissertation. Yep, everybody should write a methodological piece, especially these days, because the methods are changing so fast.
So fast. This is enlightening for us. We got started maybe 5 or 10 minutes late, so maybe we can ask 1 or 2 more questions before we end this. Trina says yes, so
sure.
We're on the same Eastern time as us down there in Tennessee, I think.
Yeah,
so,
in East Tennessee, yep.
Are you in, West Tennessee would be in Central maybe, eh?
Yeah, just past Knoxville, it changes to Central. Yep.
That would be East, yeah, so okay, yeah. Lena always asks a question and she hasn't.
I'm waiting.
No, she's been waiting, okay. She says. Okay. So.
I give the opportunity to Chris first. Because Chris raised the hand, okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Paulus. You are sharing, also give me the enlightening thoughts relevant to my research. And also I'm very curious about your research about this qualitative research methods. And I searched about the links in a Zoom about the webinars and short courses here on the website. I'm very interested in most of them, and especially when I saw the topic. So I think I will go through some of those past webinars when I go back. And also, I think you will have some coming short courses. So I'm interested in those things. And I'm thinking if I have opportunity to audit some of your courses in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great. Yep.
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else want to jump in before we go today? Shishi and I are doing many research studies. You should at least have a chance to say hi, Shishi, and tell her a bit about our research. If you have a question, that'd be great too.
I think mostly all my questions has been answered. So I just appreciate you being here and we can hear from you. And yeah, I don't have other questions today.
So I'll embarrass her a bit. I've been here 32 years and she's the first one with 4 different dissertation ideas, and then she jumped to number 5. And all at once, and probably she's conducted, she's thought of, she's generated more research studies than perhaps anybody of my doctoral advisees ever at this stage of her career before graduating. So we're doing a lot of different, we'll send you a couple, including Duolingo. So
awesome.
There were 2 studies there with Duolingo and some AI ones and AI ethics now. So you talked about AI ethics earlier, so we've got that too. We're all studying MOOCs in South America. We study MOOCs in Nepal with kids, young kids, teenagers in their support structures and learning English and other things.
Nice.
And tango dancing on the mostly we're saying self-directed learning. So we're looking at that too. And that's her expertise, one of her many expertises.
Oh, that's great.
So anyone else? Sumin, did you want to ask anything? She's our newest person here from Seoul National, working with Dr. Kwon. You want to say hi?
Hi, my name is Sumin, and I want to ask the one question because the digital data is related to personal data. You said the TikTok or the SNS, but is it not related to the personal ethical problem issue. So, well, so.
You are asking
Yeah.
about IRB, I guess.
IRB issue with TikTok.
Oh,
Oh, I know, yes.
yeah, you mean about like getting permission? Yeah, so getting permission to use data is not just to like, yeah, you're right. Like, it's not just about getting permission to use people's data in the AI systems, but even getting permission to use people's data, social media data as a source of data. It has been another kind of ethical dilemma because I would say before the 2016 American elections, there was not as much attention paid to how many companies and researchers were scraping social media sites for data for a variety of purposes, be it academic research, market research, nefarious purposes. It was happening a lot, and it has happened a lot. But I think after 2016, people became more aware of and upset about the access that people had, like who was using their social media data for what. So a lot of times for like people in the school of ed or people in applied fields, like when I started working with what is now called social media data, it wasn't called social media data, it was computer media communication, online discussions. I was looking at online conversations from closed systems, like for learning, the MOOCs that Kurt mentioned, online courses, online support groups that were closed systems, and you had permission from the moderator to look at that as data. That, you know, you could get informed consent from to treat it as data. It was a little bit of a different situation. But, you know, political science researchers, for example, have been scraping Twitter forever. Like half of their papers are written based on tweets. Now it's X or whatever. It's a mess over there now. I don't know that anybody can get decent research data out of Twitter, former Twitter anymore. But not everybody does believe that you need to have participant informed consent to use their publicly available social media data, because first of all, it would be impossible to get their consent. So do we just leave all of those conversations not researched because there's no way to get informed consent when they're publicly available, publicly visible, and out there for the world to see? Do we really say we're not going to research that because we can't get 1,000 people's informed consent? So you can see it's a dilemma. And the Association of Internet Researchers has some really good professional guidelines around how to think about that. And there's been a ton of writing around the ethics around social media research that have changed over time for sure. And now with TikTok being, you know, outlawed, or, you know, the United States really pushing back on even allowing TikTok, which I don't really know what that means. How do you outlaw TikTok? There are other issues around data privacy, data security, and all of those things that make it a very difficult thing. And so I guess we'll be talking about all of that this summer. So I better figure out what we're going to say about this in the class.
Sounds like another book.
Well, we do talk about it in the one book. I mean, in the book with Alyssa Wise, we do talk about it, but that was 5 years ago and the whole landscape has changed. So we have to figure out how we're going to update all that information.
So I know Christian has his hand up, but we need to go in a minute or two. But Matt hasn't spoken and Shen hasn't spoken, or up in the front here. You have a quick comment, Christian?
I don't think it's quick.
Okay, so we'll come back to you if we have time. Matt or Chen, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I think I have a question for Dr. Paulus.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Paulus, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Dr. Paulus. I'm Chen, and I'm now doing the my dissertation research on gamification. So I plan to interview about 6 or 7 online instructors about their strategy of applying the gamification about on their online course design or development, something like that. So could you give me some suggestion about the interview and data collection, because I'm going to do the qualitative research for this dissertation plan. So I was wondering if you can give me some tips or suggestions about what should I do, or what do I need to pay special attention to during my data collection and analysis, something like that. Thanks.
Oh, how to do qualitative interviews is a whole course that we teach. I don't know. I'm not sure how to give that a tip on that in a short period of time. I would talk to Jessica Lester and the people in the qualitative inquiry program, because I think they have a whole sequence of courses on how to conceptualize and frame. I do a lot of work with my students on understanding the assumptions underlying their questions, because how you ask a question and how you respond to what is said is super important for qualitative research. You can change the entire direction of an interview. Also, interviews are not just orally delivered surveys. It should not just be a list of 10 questions and you ask all the participants all 10 questions and then you say thank you very much and you're done. That's a survey. That's a survey. Why waste their time? So qualitative inquiry, qualitative interviewing is a very different way of being. So definitely there are so many resources out there, and I really do recommend that you take time to really think about what your goal is of doing interviewing, and qualitative inquiry and why, and really thinking about those assumptions that you're making when you ask questions in certain ways. So that's about as much as I can say in a short period of time, but I'm glad that you're thinking about it, because a lot of people don't. People think that anybody can do qualitative research. You're just talking to people. I have always chosen fields that everybody thinks they already know everything about. Teaching English. I speak English. I can teach English. Internet stuff. I can use the internet. Who needs to have expertise in the internet? Qualitative inquiry. I can look at people and talk to people. Why do we need expertise in qualitative research? Someday I'm going to be studying computer science where everybody knows they don't know anything. I don't know why I choose things that everybody already thinks they know everything about.
Wonderful, and as I said in introducing you, your answers are so delightful and so understandable and so conceptually easy to grasp. And we thank you for all that. I will point out that she is working in a place up at IUPUI for a dissertation that you would probably be familiar somewhat with, because you remember OnCourse. So our learning management system when you were here,
yes,
OnCourse.
OnCourse. Yes. Oh my gosh, what a blast from the past. OnCourse.
Yes. The guy who built OnCourse is Ali Jafari. Ali Jafari since built the thing that Angel, that Blackboard built for $300 million, and now he built the CN, and he also built ePortfolio tools and an AI tool and so forth. Ali Jafari, we're splitting up IUPUI into Purdue and IU.
I know, I couldn't believe it. That was shocking.
It's very shocking, but Chen is working up on his project on the CN, which is like a Twitter, Facebook, and a learning management system all in one, and with the gamification component added on. So in terms of the connection I can make here, Ali Jafari is a serial entrepreneur he's the godfather of learning management systems in effect.
Yeah.
Very cool guy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know if Matt had a comment or a question to end? No, so we will let Christian make his comment, and that will be the last one.
So maybe this is actually a tie-in from what you just talked about with the godfather of the LMS, Ali, and kind of what you're looking at doing next, which is working in computer science.
So yeah, that might have to be my next lifetime.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
How do you see multimodal learning analytics playing a role in qualitative analysis?
I don't know what multimodal learning analytics is. What is that?
So are you familiar with learning analytics? Kind of the dump that comes from the LMS?
Yes.
They're kind of simple, not super informative analytics that can come from management systems. But
yes, I do know about that. Yeah. Oh, it's like, so it's what, like video feeds and all that stuff?
Yeah, yes, Jill knows them too. Jill, you want to add?
Multimodal instruction is not really the same with the multimodal analytics. Multimodal analytics refers to incorporation different types of data from different sources. For example, I try to incorporate the physiological responses and the survey responses and the computer logs different kinds of data into one corpus.
Yeah. I have lots of thoughts on that.
It's not qualitative.
None of which is going to be popular.
Quantitative.
Yeah. So data analytics, just like big data. So I think
Yeah.
there's this illusion. So what do I think about this? There was a great quote. I wish I could remember this quote, but this is the idea. And I wish I could remember where this idea came from. But so you know how those of you who are doing classroom research, there's this idea if you put a camera in every angle of the classroom, you're somehow going to catch what's really happening. There's this notion, this fallacy that if you just get enough data, you're somehow going to get a true picture of the world. And I guess part of it's just, it's not my thing. I'm glad that it's somebody's thing, but I wonder sometimes, like, can't we just talk to people and see what they tell us, right? Like, can't we just talk to people? But then I do believe, like, but I also, I mean, I do like the idea of getting all of that stuff, but figuring out what to do with it is way beyond like my skill set. And that's why I was saying earlier, like, even me trying to get a handle on how to make sense of Instagram, like like social media is multimodal now. And how do you make sense of the interplay between the reel, the story, the post, the comments, the likes, like all of that as a multimodal data set? It's really hard for me. And I wonder if we should start with how the consumers of that are making sense of it. And maybe that's what some of you are doing is like, okay, well, when a teenager looks at that, what are they attending to first, second, and third? How are they making sense of it? I know what I screen out and what I attend to, but then what does that tell us about what our research question is? So I think that's all really fascinating, and I really don't know, because it's like, to me, it gets to be so much. But maybe that's where we use the AI tools, right? Like those, they help us find the patterns, and it goes into that bigger LLM and tries to tell us its current hallucination about what the patterns are. And then we figure out if that's helpful or not, right? I mean, I loved this quote this morning. It was like, all AI responses are hallucinations. The question is just, is it an accurate hallucination or not? Like, does it resonate? Because they don't really know anything. So I thought that was great.
Right.
Perfect.
And
Perfect. We need to end with here at some point. Sorry, Christian. We can do more discussion on email. Just send me and I'll forward it to Trina. I'll connect you to Trina. We need to clap here. I mean, it's been a long.
Thank you. This was fun. I appreciate it. It's great to see so many familiar faces and new faces, and good luck with all of your work.
Good luck with all your work. Have you ever done quantitative research, or is it all qualitative these days?
It's all qualitative these days. Yeah, it's all qualitative these days for sure. Yeah. I mean, I did way back in the day, but I think quantitative's easy, right? Like, numbers are not hard. It's the interpretive stuff I think is much more of a challenge. So that's why I gravitate to it.
You like challenge. I understand.
Yeah.
So if you think of things that we discussed that you want to send to me, I'll forward it on to folks here.
Sounds great.
And your syllabus among them, or the dates, or things like that, because you're piqued some interest, and I think the rest of our department needs to know that you're teaching these courses this summer. You know, that's going to be a big benefit for the program to knowing, and if you teach them in the future, that'd be putting the icing on the cake. But just to know this summer, because people are looking for this summer kinds of things.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Would love to see some people there. Absolutely.
Perfect. So I will stop the recording at this point, just about ready to stop, but I want to say thank you again to Trina for week 12, R795 of the spring of 2024. It's been a delight to have you here. Everything I said at the beginning of this holds and more. I am in awe of your presentation skills, and someday you need to not think about qualitative research. You need to do a little paper how to present and how to respond to questions, because you responded in such a fabulous way. Again, another round of applause. Some comments in the chat from everyone. You can go ahead and put them in. So I have stopped the recording.